Hi, I'm Timothy Alexander White, your host and spokesperson for Festival at Sea, Blue World Travel, and this is our 25th anniversary. We are aboard the Carnival Glory, and we are having such a great time. And here's my co-host as we prepare to talk to comedian Tony Rock.
And I'm Carwana Dyson, your co-host from San Francisco, and welcome to Festival at Sea. You're right now tuned into Bluetooth Television, and we're here with Tony Rock.
And to my left is Tony Rock, of course. He's no stranger to the business of comedy. Very funny show tonight, my man.
Thank you, sir.
Tonight and last night. I mean, you're one of the funniest comedians I've heard. Now, I'm really easy, but you're very polished, very well educated, you're intrinsic, and you did such a great job. But I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You came out last night, and you talked about the language that you use when you're doing your comedy.
Right.
So my question is this, is that the language of choice? Because there are comedians who tell great jokes,
Right.
a lot of laughter, no cursing, no vulgarity. So is that a language of choice? You do it for laughs, or is that something bigger?
Okay, no. I don't do it for laughs. I talk to the may I take the mic?
Yes, of
I
course.
talk to the audience like I'm talking to my friends. Like I call my show a conversation with Tony Rock.
Okay.
So it's just me hanging out with my friends and talking and telling stories. The curses come out in just the natural way of talking, but I never want to write a joke that I need a curse to sell.
Okay.
So a well-written joke, curses don't make it any better or worse.
That's
As you can see, Bill Cosby, one of the greatest comics of all time, never curses on stage because the curses should never make the joke.
Okay.
But it's just me, the way I talk.
And you made a comment earlier today about when you were young, always wanting to be in this place, and you made a reference to be able to be kind to people.
Yes.
Or did you know you wanted to be a comedian from when you were a young man?
I knew I wanted to be a comedian from sixth grade, but I just knew that I've had during my childhood I've had experiences with celebrities at the time, and I didn't get a handshake or didn't get an autograph or didn't get a picture, and it was, man, when I get in that position, I'm going to take pictures with everybody. I'm going to sign every autograph. I'm going to shake every hand. I'm never going to make anybody feel the way I felt walking away from like somebody I admired and not getting a connection, having a connection with them.
And that's what's most important, having a connection.
Right, absolutely. And you're a very humble comedian, and your success so far has been tremendous. And I know that your first start was like in the Netherlands, like to be a traveling comedian just right out the gate and to be featured in People magazine. That's great. And then to come from, a family where there's some other successful comedians, like, and you have so much more left to do. So I just wanted you to talk about some of your career goals and dreams of some things that you would like to accomplish.
Oh, career goals and dreams, man. Where does the list? Ideally, if you know how the industry works, you know how a sitcom goes off and they have the credits rolling. The names behind the cameras are always the same. You watch the Jeffersons, it's the same name. When they Cosby Show, same name. The Carmichael Show, same name. The names behind the cameras always stay the same. The faces in front always change. So I want to be, strong in stand-up comedy, make my mark. But then when I go behind the camera, I'm going to probably have a longer lasting career behind the camera than in front of it. So ultimately my goal is to be behind the camera and control some of the content that we see and how we're seen and the things we, showcase ourselves doing. So ultimately that's my goal.
Out of all the places you've performed at all around the world, what are some of your favorite places, some of the venues that you love? Tell us about some small places and larger places. Are there certain characteristics of each of those that you pick up on and kind of migrate to and talk about?
Okay. One of my favorite places, well, home is New York, of course.
Okay.
That's where I started.
Brooklyn,
Brooklyn, New York, yes.
He told me about
I
that.
started,
Brooklyn.
you got to say Brooklyn, yes. I started in the clubs in New York, so it's where I, honed my craft, and I was a piece of clay, and that's when I shaped and molded everything. So that's always going to be a different kind of connection than anywhere else. I love performing in D.C. because it's the capital, and it's very many black people there, and they're educated and upwardly mobile, and they know about anything you talk about. If you talk about something political, they're like, we got you, we know. Something pop culture, we got you, we follow you. So it's never like you feel like you got to search to get the pulse of the room in D.C., whereas some places in the South I might have to, only talk about a very few things because I'm not sure they're going to grasp what's going on, in other regions of the world. So the major metropolitan cities always fun. I always have a nice mix of people when I do my shows on the road. It's maybe 50-50, black to white. So I like to go places where it's, metropolitan, a little a little bit of a challenge doesn't hurt, but I like to be places where, I know they're going to pick up on my vibe.
And I know you came up in some of the roughest parts of New York, right? Right. Okay, so the roughest part of New York. So just going back, touching back on your family and how you came up, and how did you find the humor in some of the things that you saw, and how easy was it for you to turn that into like comedy?
I grew up in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. I did not have a lot of money growing up as a kid. We were not the rich family on the block, and when you have that many children and not a lot of money to entertain them or to spend on their entertainment, then your creativity comes into play, because you got to make a fork a army man, or you got to make a stick a football. So when that creativity is sparked, it also comes out in, you create characters. Your imagination starts to flourish, and then inanimate objects you give a voice, and that is part of comedy, is making things appear the way you want them to appear. So that's the earliest stages of being a stand-up. Is Richard Pryor's the best at that. With the cat was like, "Hey man, what are you talking about?" The dog was like, "Hey, I'm gonna chase you tomorrow." You know that, and that comes from not having. You make anything else your entertainment, and that's why the comedy came out in that, because we didn't have much, so we made funny with what we had.
If you weren't doing comedy, what else would you be doing? If you weren't doing comedy, if you weren't a professional comedian making people laugh, what other endeavors would you have pursued had it not been comedy?
I always like to say, if I wasn't doing this, I just hope I would be doing something else. I know a lot of rappers always say, if I wasn't doing this, I'd be dead or in jail. It's like, no, those are not the only two options for me. So if I wasn't doing this, I'd be doing just as well at something else. I had aspirations at one point of going into broadcast journalism, like a sportscaster, because I'm a big sports guy. So I thought, pick a job that you love and it's not work. So I thought, I like sports so much, and I know so many things about so many sports that would be a great job for me to have. But then the calling came, and everything else took a backseat to comedy.
Okay, so in all respect, you are a very handsome and single young man, by the way, ladies. So you mentioned on the stage that you're looking for a woman. I mean, a wife, basically. And well, even though if it's just a joke, people want to know. So let's just see, even if it's something far in the future that you want to do, what are some of the things that you look for in a companion?
Oh, okay. And a companion is that's a good thing. No, as Barack would say, thank you for your question. I look for in a woman. I want a woman that is intelligent, goal-oriented, has her own life, so to speak. I don't want anybody that's so dependent upon what I do, because my money in this industry, my money fluctuates. I can make $1 million in 2 weeks and then nothing for the next 2 years. So I don't want somebody that's like, well, if he's down, I'm down. I want a woman that has her own. So if I'm down, she's like, we're up. I'll be up while you're down. Somebody funny, of course, and family oriented. Not you don't have to have a big family, but just be, know that my brothers are important to me, my sisters are very important to me. Your relationship with your parents is very important to me, because it's going to dictate how you talk to people and how you interact with them, and how you treat children is going to determine whether or not I think you're a worthy candidate to be the mother of my child. So not a lot of not nothing too serious, but some serious things in there.
Let me ask you this, or mention this. Comedy has changed so much over the years. What I mean by that is that you used to have to come out and tell a joke to get a laugh, tell another joke to get a laugh. Nowadays, you can come out and say 3 or 4 words to an audience, and they'll just start laughing. You haven't said nothing, but you made a comment or an observation. So when it comes down to constructing a joke, you see something funny, do you have to kind of formulate in your head, okay, that's funny to me, now I have to say it in a way, configure it so the audience will laugh? What is that process like? What is that process like?
What I've been doing on the cruise is I'm just observing everything. I'm on the deck, and I see, like I said today with the women wearing certain things, it was just like, okay, this is kind of funny that they just don't care. Like, they're just out here free on the water. It was tiger print pants with like a bra top. It was interesting. It was very interesting. And was walking with confidence. So I thought, you know what, that'll be funny to talk about, because I know this is what you do. You construct it. First, you have to see that everybody else sees it too. So when I'm on the deck, I'm like, okay, I'm not the only person that sees this. So if I say something, on stage, they're gonna know what I'm talking about. Right. When I started the show last night, it was I said something about the cheeseburgers up top. That was I seen the line around the boat, so I know everybody knows what I'm talking about. The guys with the drinks, that's funny. Like, so you observe it and you know that other people see it. Then you construct the joke in knowing that they saw it too. So every aspect of it. Oh, last night was the emergency,
Right, the drill.
the drill. Yeah, that while it was going on, I'm like, okay, everybody's doing this. So if I talk about it, everybody's gonna know what I'm talking about.
So do you ever feel like observing? I feel like I'm an observant person. She's observant because she's also creative. But are you always on looking for the funny? And then do you write these things down? Because the way your delivery is, it looks like you never write it down.
No, I write every
You write it
day.
down?
I write every
Okay.
Yeah, what we did the drill the first night, the first day, we did the drill, and I ran back to the room because I had it in my head like, okay, first it was staying silently. Then he said, I want to get an accurate count.
Right.
Then it was how you put your life vest on. Then it was we're going to release the sides, one at a time. And I had to get everything in order the way they did it. And I ran back to the room and wrote it all down real fast because I didn't want to lose the train of thought.
And real quick, so when you tell a joke and you don't get the reaction you think it should, what happens then? Do you say, I'm not going to do that joke anymore, or do you work on it because you think it's funny?
Yeah.
You just got to figure out another way to tell it, or make the story longer, or give a different example, but bring it back in, right? Like you did the guy with the 5 years thing.
Yes.
Because you went away and then you came back.
Because it was like a good callback for what he did when I was talking to somebody else. But there's never a joke. A joke is never finished. Like the first joke I ever wrote could be written differently and better and longer. And there's never been a joke that I wrote that I thought this is completed. It's always more to put in, something to take out. And sometimes it won't hit because you put it in the wrong order. You said something, maybe I said something a little racy before it. So then when I said this joke, it couldn't follow that racy joke. So you restructure it, you put it again, but a joke is never done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never heard that, but that's
Never is a joke done,
right.
yeah.
And I know that you mentioned earlier that you want to do some stuff behind the scenes. Like, in what ways do you want to work with? Are you looking to work with other comedians or some more acting? Because I know that you've been in a couple films. And so what do you want to do, like, as far as behind the scenes?
No limits. I want to write TV shows. I want to write movies. I want to direct movies. I want to produce TV shows. I want to produce game shows. It's no limit. If there's a great idea and I think I can bring something to it or bring something unique to it with my voice, I'm with it.
Well, I'm going to let you go. We're not going to keep you all night long because it's a great conversation. We can continue to talk all night. But let me ask you this. When it comes down to young comedians up and coming, what kind of advice? You're, what, 30?
Yeah. 30.
30 years old.
No.
What advice would you give young comedians, youngsters that want to do this, that's coming into the game? What would you tell them?
Okay, if you're a young comedian and you want to get into this business, here are the rules. You have to write every day. Every single solitary day, you have to take the time out to formulate some material, to try to formulate some material. If you go to the gym, you see guys working out. They work a certain muscle. That muscle gets bigger the more they work it out. Your brain is a muscle. The more you work your brain, it's going to get bigger. It's going to get better. You're going to write jokes easier, quicker, if you keep working the muscle. That's number one. You read as much as you possibly can. Be a voracious reader, because the smarter comics are the better comics. The guys that know more have more stuff to write about. If you only live in this one box where it's you and your girlfriend and your homies, you're only going to write about you and your girlfriends and your homies. Expand your horizons, broaden your horizons, write about everything, read about everything, and never steal jokes, and get on stage as much as humanly possible. It doesn't matter if it's a comedy club or if it's a coffee shop. Anywhere there's a microphone with a speaker and some people in the room, tell jokes. It's not about what the room looks like. You're just rehearsing for the bigger payday. You're rehearsing for the bigger stage. So when you're on that stage, when it's a pack full of people, it will feel like a cakewalk because you've done this so many times. It's a learned, trained behavior. Those are the 4 points of being a great comic.
That is some of the best advice I've heard.
Me too. I was just about to say that is the best advice. Yes.
And Gladys Knight also mentioned passing it on to other people.
Yes,
and
yes.
man, well, it's great talking to you.
Pleasure.
You know, I have to come
Thank you,
visit
sir.
Brooklyn
Thank you.
one of these days
got
in the
you.
near future. I've been there.
Lunch on
I
me.
love New York. Lunch on him, you heard him. That's a bet. I'm Timothy Alexander White, along with my co-host Carwana Dyson. Thank you so much for watching Blue Tube Television.